And we're back, guys. We're back with some new stunning footage that caught my attention this week. We're checking out some interesting construction and mining accidents, and we'll be analyzing every single one of them. And on top of that, we've got some crazy CCTV footage and some crazy people who came within inches of the worst possible outcome. But first things first, we'd really appreciate it if you could support the channel. It helps us grow faster and bring you even more content like this. All right, enough talking. Let's get this thing started. So the first clip comes from Russia, and I'd say this dozer is stuck pretty good. The fact that the excavator behind it was lifting up that much tells you just how badly it's buried. I think this is a Chetra bulldozer. Anyway, that Hyundai tried to pull it out from behind, but it didn't stand much of a chance. It was simply too light for the job. So they brought in this bigger Shantui instead. All right, let's see if it's got enough muscle to get the job done. Yep, you heard the man. Opachki, which basically means, there we go. I mean, with two excavators sitting right there, it would have been pretty embarrassing if they couldn't pull that dozer out. Now, here's what can happen when you're standing inside the working zone of a heavy machine. Luckily, this poor sucker ended up underneath the middle of the loader and not under the tires. Otherwise, this could have ended a whole lot worse. And you can see the loader operator has no idea what just happened. With the bucket raised and fully loaded, he simply can't see what's going on 30 feet in front of the machine. Now this is the exact opposite situation. This guy can clearly see what's in front of him, but he has absolutely no idea what's underneath him. And yet, he decided to keep moving the machine anyway. All right, let's see what kind of mess he's about to get himself into. All right, now it's pretty obvious that he could see how deep the water was, and yet he kept going anyway. I'd say it was either some kind of bet or just an attempt to put on a show for social media. The funny thing is, he probably wasn't even thinking about the fact that the fan could bend underwater and go straight through the radiator. But apparently, that wasn't enough to stop him. After all, this is Russia, guys. Too much vodka and a show is pretty much guaranteed. Now this is what bad luck looks like. This guy was pushing a boat with a forklift, but the boat started bouncing around and slipped off one of the forks. To make things even worse, the forklift started rolling backward too. The poor soul didn't even know which problem to deal with first. But somehow, it all ended pretty well. The forklift didn't crash through the fence or end up on the public road. Now this is wild. Imagine having a job where you get paid to dig and load fire. Sounds pretty cool, right? But what's really happening here is even more interesting. Hidden inside this material are pockets of flammable gas trapped beneath the surface. As long as the material stays undisturbed, nothing happens. But the moment the excavator bucket cuts into it, those gases are suddenly released. And when they come into contact with the hot steel of the bucket, sparks or superheated rock surfaces, they ignite almost instantly. Now that's definitely not something you see every day in the mining industry. Since we're already talking about hot gases, contact with metal, and ignition, well, I think it's pretty obvious what happened here. We can see that the entire front end of the MRAP has been blown apart. The engine is gone too. We can also see oil and vehicle parts scattered inside the crater, which can only mean one thing. This vehicle most likely hit a landmine. All right, we're back in Russia. And we're going to be looking at quite a few clips from Russia today, but let's see what's going on here. So, judging by the footage, this looks like some kind of recovery operation. Based on how the dump body is bent over the cab and how badly the cab itself is crushed, I'd say this truck rolled over and went down the slope while dumping. Yep, that's exactly what I thought. This is what happens when a berm is built the wrong way and out of soft, loose material. The truck broke right through it, started rolling backward, most likely tipped over because of the load still in the body. And then the dump body came down right on top of the cab. We can see that they're pulling it out from below using some kind of military recovery vehicle with a winch, along with a bulldozer helping out. I don't have any info about the driver, but I hope he managed to bail out of the cab in time. All right, the Liebherr R9350. Let's move in a little closer and check it out. So, as you can see, it's got a pretty good dent in it. And the reason for that is a huge chunk of rock broke loose from the wall and came crashing down right onto the excavator, damaging the lower left side of the machine and crushing the access stairs. You can see exactly where the damage was done now. Imagine how big that rock must have been. So, to prevent something like that from happening again, we had to take a few precautions. Any rocks sticking out of the wall that could pose a danger to the excavator has to be knocked down with a bulldozer. Of course, that's only if conditions allow it, and as long as it doesn't put the bulldozer itself at risk. And the situation here was pretty clear, so we brought the bulldozer up on top to knock down any rocks that could pose a threat to the excavator, and of course, the operator. And meanwhile, the operator... Of course, somebody has to stay up top and keep an eye on the whole operation, especially the bulldozer, to make sure it doesn't slide down the slope. So this is a perfect example of how the job should be done when safety matters. All right, the job is done. There's no longer any danger to the machines, so the excavator can move in and get back to doing what it does best. This is what I like to call heavy haulage. Out in the remote parts of the Chad Desert, this is often the only way to transport goods, so people try to load as much as possible onto their trucks. But geez, just look at this old Benz. That Mad Max packing is wild. If you thought that old Benz was insane, just look at this. Good thing it stopped right at the edge. Otherwise, this could have ended a whole lot worse. Nope, this ain't some AI crap. Believe it or not, this is actually real. I've always enjoyed watching machines push around big rocks. Well, these aren't exactly mountain-sized rocks, but they're still plenty big. I actually made a video about rocks versus heavy machinery, so feel free to check it out. The link is up in the top right corner. It's quite fun to watch. So sit back and enjoy the next few minutes. And one of my favorite grader jobs, moving large rocks off the haul road. Alright, I tried to figure out what happened here, but I honestly can't make sense of it. We can see that the tire is blown out, the stairs have been torn off the truck, the cab is crushed, and the windshield, side windows, and rear window are all gone. The front steel frame is literally ripped apart. To me, it almost looks like the truck ran over an anti-tank mine. It definitely took a serious hit from underneath. What exactly happened here, I honestly have no idea. If anyone knows the story behind this one, let us know down below. Flooding, a common occurrence in illegal mines, especially in tropical regions where monsoon rains are frequent. Something similar happened at our mine a few years ago too, except we did it on purpose. If you want to find out what exactly happened, check out the link in the top right corner. I've always said that CCTV footage is some of the craziest and honestly some of the most brutal footage out there. This guy tripped and decided to take a little break right behind the truck's wheels. Bro was acting like he had just fallen off a building and needed some time to recover. Anyway, while he was just sitting there, crouched behind the truck's wheels, another guy climbed into the cab. And let's watch what happens next. Luckily for him, the truck driver didn't start backing up too fast. I actually showed this clip in one of my previous videos, and I can tell you from experience, standing that close to a haul truck while it's driving by is not a very smart idea. The heat coming out of the exhaust was literally roasting my head, and in the next clip, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And this is exactly what I was talking about. You can see how the dust is being blown away, like there's a giant hairdryer pointed down at the road. Just look at all the dust out here. Visibility is almost zero. There have been plenty of times when a haul truck passed by, I'd start moving with the grader right afterward, and then a big-ass haul truck would suddenly come out of nowhere through the dust. And if you think this is dusty, just wait until you see what it looks like around the crusher facility. And just look at this. It feels like you've stepped right into the desert. All of this is dust that has built up over time from haul trucks dumping material into the crusher. Now you're about to see what that looks like up close. Just look at that mess. You can barely see the trucks through all that dust. I can only imagine what it's like for the guys working at the crusher facility. When I was filming there, I could barely catch my breath. It feels like you're slowly being buried by some kind of cold powder. And yes, the dust is actually cold. Well, after all, it's made up of tiny rock particles. This is being done for demonstration purposes, to show what can happen to people inside a smaller vehicle in a collision like this. And just to be clear, there's nobody inside the pickup truck. And this is no demonstration. This is the real thing. This usually happens when mining is done without proper planning, most often in illegal mines and quarries. People tend to ignore how a proper highwall should be built and maintained. And that's exactly why outcomes like this are so common. One minute everything looks fine, and the next, half the wall comes crashing down. That's what happens when safety and proper mine planning get ignored. From bad to the absolute worst case scenario, these two guys had no idea how close they were to death. They say size doesn't matter. Well, I think it does after all. Well, I've said it several times already. CCTV footage is some of the craziest footage out there. And here's why. This guy was literally split seconds away from being blown to pieces. If he had been standing just 3 feet farther to the right, they probably would have been scraping him off the roof structure of the shop. The force of a large haul truck tire explosion is sometimes compared to firing a 155mm howitzer. And after seeing footage like this, it's not hard to understand why. Dashcams can be just as wild as CCTV footage. Looks like the truck hauling the bulldozer took that turn a little too hard. Unfortunately, the truck loaded with timber blocked our view right when things got ugly. Too bad the truck loaded with timber didn't have a dash cam. That would have been some awesome footage. And what are the chances of a train hitting a haul truck? Well, I guess pretty high. The truck's right rear tire literally lifted the entire ore car and managed to tear the axle right off it. Now that's wild. And yeah, that's Russia. Imagine a TV crew shows up to film you at work, and right in the middle of the interview, this happens. This happened at a job site somewhere in Switzerland, and the story goes that a loader operator got so fed up with his boss that he decided to crush his boss's Benz. But it quickly turned out that the whole thing was a setup, and that it was some kind of insurance advertisement. We can see that the Benz somehow managed to hold up against a 222,000-pound machine. I think this is a Cat 992K. Then the operator lowered his 24-ton bucket onto the car, and we can see it was loaded too. And that was the end of the CLK. The veracity of the video has been called into question by more than a few commenters on YouTube and elsewhere on the web. The most common complaint is that there doesn't appear to be an engine in the CLK. We can even see that the engine bay is empty. There are also no fluids leaking anywhere, which means everything had been drained before filming. And on top of that, everything was set up to happen right in front of the cameras, while a worker was giving an interview. When we watch it from our perspective as viewers, it all looks real. But the truth is, the whole thing was a setup. That's why the story about a loader operator going crazy and crushing his boss's Mercedes is mostly just an internet legend. But I have to admit, as a viral video, it did its job perfectly. Even today, a lot of people still believe it was a real incident. Well guys, that would be all for today. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to support the channel. Until the next video, stay safe out there.